Jason Fitz is there. I am here, Mike Gill, at Mike Gill Show, here on a Wednesday. It's good to have him back. I'm sure he's saying the same about me, right? I haven't seen him in quite some time, it feels like, as I was off in the wilderness for a while. But I am back wearing my Providence College hockey shirt, Mr. Las Vegas.
And I knew you'd bring it, but here's the thing. It's week 0, essentially. This is the last few days of undefeated joy I'll feel as a Raiders fan. So every day is a Raiders shirt. Like, I thought about breaking the tradition and wearing a Vandy shirt just to troll the fact that Vandy doesn't even belong in the SEC anymore. But, not that they really ever did. But, at the end of the day, I couldn't let the Raiders swag go away. So it has to be a Raiders shirt today. A week from today, I will not be nearly as positive about my beloved Raiders as I am right now.
Well, I was going to say, so what is the NFL season's here? What is Jay Fitz NFL season rituals that, we all start as the season gets here? You obviously looking like you're going Vegas shirt. Is that a daily thing,
Yeah, so every Friday I always wear Raiders stuff. That's always the way. And every Monday, doesn't matter win or lose, because you got to support it, good and bad, and mostly bad for the last several years. Usually for the first week of the season, I make like a tailgating spread. So I actually start cooking on Saturday because I want to do it in stages so that I can make sure I'm set. This year, I am lucky enough to be one of the few that has the opportunity to go to Allegiant. So for the Monday night opener for the Raiders, I'll be in the stadium.
Nice.
The Raiders hooking me up. So, I'll be there for the first game that fans are in the stands for a regular season game. And I think it's an interesting thing. And you know this well, like Eagles fans have such a reputation. And I think it's part of, what makes it a fiery fan base. I'm interested to see for the first time what we can actually expect from Raiders fans in the stands. We have no idea if there is any home field advantage.
Now, I did see a tweet of you recently where you went back to the Saturday night main event shirt. So my question was, how often, because I think since you and I have started this, I don't know that you've seen the repeat from me, right? I've gone college. I'm keeping my end of, heck, I went to ECU last weekend, and I have a new purple and gold waiting for you one of these weeks from Greenville. So how many shirts do you go through before you have to go back to Saturday night's main event?
I would not have gone back to Saturday night's main event, but as any wrestling fan can appreciate this. Last week, I wore the Saturday night's main event shirt a few weeks ago. Last week on Saturday, I find out I grew up, I'm 44. I grew up in the AWA era in Vegas of wrestling. And my favorite tag team, I was a little kid, and I was in this orchestra that rehearsed at the Showboat Casino, which happened to be where they did TV tapings for AWA. So I went to see the Midnight Rockers all the time. Marty Jannetty, Shawn Michaels, later the Rockers, were life for me. And in fact, for a long time, I hated Shawn Michaels because he broke up the Rockers, and Marty was my guy. Turns out last week, Marty Jannetty was doing a signing and like a meet and greet at a toy store 10 minutes from ESPN campus. So in the middle of the first Saturday that I've got, 16 hours on campus, and I'm working and I'm taking notes and I'm dealing with the whole show staff getting ready for 2 digital shows on Saturday night, I literally looked at everybody and said, y'all, you can take lunch. I got to go to this toy store and meet Marty Jannetty. So I had to have the Saturday night's main event because I didn't have any rocker swag, but at least that gave me a little 80s kickback swag. Got to meet Marty, and he was everything that we hear Marty is now.
I would imagine so. The picture was good. I saw that, and I saw, oh, my God, he's in a photo with Marty Jannetty. This is hilarious. It's been a pretty wrestling resurgent here recently. It's like all over the place, man.
Thanks to not that we're going to do a whole segment on wrestling, but thanks to AEW. I mean, the WWF, WWE is at its best when there's legit competition, and I lived through that in the 80s and 90s. I lived through that with the Monday Night Wars, and the more and more AEW gets some attention, the more and more we're going to be talking about it. So
I'll tell you, I don't know if I had told you this before, but CM Punk and I worked together. I did the play-by-play for the MMA, and he was my color commentator, right?
That's amazing.
Right? Who would have known that? So I'm doing the play-by-play. He does the color, and I had talked to him about it. He said, never, ever, ever going back. Just no interest at all. You know what he told me? I'll tell you a quick, interesting story. He says, I'm wrestling The Undertaker at WrestleMania, and in the middle of the match, all I kept thinking about is when I can go back to my hotel room and watch Forensic Files. At that point, I knew I wanted no part of being here anymore. There's a little one for you. How about that one?
That's not that different. Like, I totally get that sense of it. Like, when I reached the point that going out on stage and playing music was not something that fulfilled me. Like, if I walk out of a crowd, play in front of 30,000 people, and all I cared about was getting on the bus, putting on shorts, and watching Family Guy, like, then you're in the wrong career, right? So, now I I get a stupid rush out of a digital show just sitting in a closet with Harry Douglas, right? Like, that's what we all got to find that rush.
It's a second Harry Douglas reference of the day on this show. I saw him this morning on KJM and I was like, Harry Douglas, who found this guy? He's doing a good job, though. So let's get to the digital stuff because college football is what you're doing on the digital side. And this weekend, I mean, it came in with a bang, man. I mean, the Notre Dame-Florida State game had people going all night long. We saw Alabama absolutely smash Miami. So give me a couple of quick takeaways from Jason Fitz watching the first really full weekend of college football.
I think, number one, other than Alabama, what we were reminded of is young quarterbacks are human. And I think we just sort of presumed that DJ Uiagalelei would come in and crush everybody at Clemson. And we presumed that CJ Stroud would come in and be fine at Ohio State. We even presumed that Spencer Rattler would take this Heisman-level growth. And if you watch all the games, all three of them had rocky, rusty moments. And I look at that and I say, okay, let's remember there's no preseason. It is a weird year. First time in front of fans for them in a long time, too. Adrenaline's funny. Trying to get in a routine is funny. Like, I think we got to remember sometimes that who they are week 0, week 1 is nothing close to what they'll be by week 6. So, I expect some of that to get righted, but I really I looked around at a lot of programs and we took for granted how many quarterbacks were changing, thinking it would just be fine. Other than Alabama, it's going to take time.
Yeah, it was entertaining, and you're right, the quarterback situation, because now these guys change so much. I mean, the kid from Georgia goes from USC to Georgia, and now all of a sudden it feels like they've got this, passing game and that can make them a contender. They beat Clemson, who for years we've been like, all right, Clemson's, we just take for granted. They look terrible. They look horrible offensively. But as you know, week 1 matters in college football, so that loss could come back to haunt Clemson down the road. Jason Fitz, of course, does it all for ESPN. Spain and Fitz tonight here on 97.3 ESPN. Tomorrow night, it is Tampa Bay and it is Dallas. So let's get into those two teams real quick. Tampa Bay for you, are they the clear-cut favorite in the NFC?
Oh, hell no. Like, I'm just not no. I'm all the way, like, we have revised everything we saw from Tampa Bay. They were a really good football team last year that won the Super Bowl. And I take nothing away from that. That can be true at the same time, just like there was a year, we all know, the Giants beat an undefeated Patriots team. Were they the best team every week? No. Were they the Super Bowl champions? Heck yeah, tip of the hat. We're just forgetting how much of a favorite Kansas City was coming into the Super Bowl, and we're forgetting the struggles Tampa Bay had last year. I think Tampa Bay is going to be a very good football team, but this talk of undefeated, this talk of repeating as Super Bowl champions, it's just stupid to me at this point. Like, only 7 franchises have ever repeated. So to me, we've just taken it for granted. And Tampa Bay is very good. They're not spectacular. They're not what the Patriots were a few years ago. And I think Dallas is actually a little better than we're getting them credit for because we're used to seeing Dallas without Dak. I mean, how many teams go 6-10 with a second-string quarterback for the most part? I mean, I know Dak has to be healthy and there's some line concerns, but we have let revisionist history really hit us with recency bias right now.
Well, Philadelphia won the Super Bowl with the backup quarterback. I'm just saying. Right. I'll throw that out there. But I agree with what you're saying. That being said, I don't have a problem with the Buccaneer repeating conversation. But who's the producers over there that are bringing up this undefeated season, and who gives a rat's ass?
Yeah, I don't. And, do any of us really care at this point? Like, remember when Pittsburgh was 13-0 and nobody was talking about undefeated then? Like, I just don't think it's as big a storyline as people want to make it. And people are looking for headlines when they say undefeated. In a 17-game season, the concept that anyone will go undefeated to me is just hot garbage. And realistically, at the end of the day, what matters more? Being 18-0 and going into the Super Bowl and losing that game, or winning a Super Bowl with your backup quarterback. It doesn't matter. It just matters that you're healthy at the end of the season, playing your best ball going into the playoffs.
And by the way, this is a team that didn't win their division last year and won the Super Bowl. I think they're okay if they lose a game or two. Jason Fitz, Spain and Fitz, plus he's all over the place digitally. Follow him at Jason Fitz to find out what he's doing on the digital side. Monday tailgate, rankings reaction, Heisman show, the kickoff, the college football show, the wrap-up, Sports Nation, and this show right here. Dallas, you just said it. Dallas in the East, it seems to me, and look, I have to be unbiased in this situation. I think they're the best team in the East, right? But are they the prohibitive favorite in the NFC East?
I mean, I think the NFC East is going to come down to, Fitzmagic and how much magic is there, right? Because if you look at the Washington football team, they basically looked at the 49er blueprint and said, hey, that's working. Let's build this great defense that can really get after the passer. Let's put really good people at all three levels on the defensive side of the ball. And then let's figure everything else out. So eventually, if we even get mediocre quarterback play, we're fine. That's been the 49ers method. As long as they're healthy, it's worked for the 49ers. I think Washington is trying to do the same thing. It's a scary defense, and they have enough offense to be really explosive, but they got to have decent quarterback play. I think I'm out on the Giants completely until that offensive line gets fixed. So I take them out of the equation. So you're left with a Dallas team that, again, when Dak went down, he was on pace to set a new passing yardage record, right? Like, he was doing good things, and we have no idea if Mike McCarthy can coach or not with this team. So there's still, if it was Madden, Cowboys would be the favorite, but it's not. So how do they actually come together? I don't know. So to me, it's going to be between Dallas and Washington, and Philly and New York are battling for third.
Recently, as today, Shaquille O'Neal basically came out and essentially said, Ben Simmons, your work is showing that you're not working hard, because we would see the change on the court if you were actually working. But we see videos of Ben Simmons all the time, shooting, doing this and doing that. So I guess at this point, camp begins on September the 28th. This is the last NBA story. Will Ben Simmons be a Sixer when they report?
Yes, he will. And I think he's only going to be a Sixer because there's not enough value coming back for him to make it worth anybody's while. I also think it's tremendously disingenuous for Shaq to say that when Shaq never figured out his own free throw shooting. So I guess my follow-up question to Shaq was, you had such a weakness that teams attacked you by simply fouling you the entirety of the game. Were you not working on free throws? Because I think if Shaq was honest, he'd tell you he was working on them. He just wasn't good at them. So, at some point, I think it seems a little fake to say that anybody's not putting in the work when realistically, especially, you had one massive hole in your game that was an Achilles heel for every team you ever played for. So I have a little bit of a hard time with that narrative from Shaq. Nothing's going to make the Ben Simmons thing easy early on. The best case scenario in my mind is that Simmons comes in, has fixed some of this, plays really well early on, increases his trade value to where then the 76ers can move on from him during the season for some sort of a king's ransom that helps them now and later.
Is there anything more baseball, Jason Fitz, than putting Derek Jeter into the Hall of Fame in the heart of NFL season beginning?
I mean, let's take one more step on that. At 1:30 in the afternoon on a weekday?
Right.
Like, what are you doing? If you're Major League Baseball, seriously, what are you doing? If you even want us to pay attention to things like the Hall of Fame induction and the draft, frankly, are you not, like, at least watching the way the NFL does it and says, hey, this whole do things that aren't during the season so that we keep interest in our season year round? Kind of a good idea. Like, I don't understand what the hell baseball's thinking, and it's a massive lost opportunity. I will be totally frank. We were sitting last night getting ready for Spain and Fitz, and our producer Stosh is a massive baseball fan, and he said, hey, we're going to have Kirkjian on tonight to talk about the Hall of Fame induction. Sarah and I both said, oh, when are those? Had no idea. Had no idea that it was today.
I literally did not know until Greeny was pontificating about it today, and I said, wait a second. Derek Jeter's going – are they in Cooperstown? Is there a ceremony? What's going on here? Like, this is Derek Jeter we're talking about. They're not putting Frank White into the Hall of Fame. Lou Whitaker.
You're talking about one of the biggest brands in all of sports going in, and you buried it on a weekday at 1:30 in the afternoon. Just when you thought baseball couldn't get any stupider on how to market their sport, they do this.
Jason Fitz, Spain and Fitz. What else you got? What else can the people see you?
Well, I mean, I'm all over the place. And like you said, especially Saturdays, if you're watching college football, I hang out with Harry Douglas from 7 to 8 p.m. Eastern, from 11 to 11:30 Eastern. We do 2 different college football shows. It's a real blast. So if you got to ESPN social handles or follow me at Jason Fitz, I think I'm doing, by the time we get to midseason, I have 8 or 9 digital shows a week on top of the radio load. So we got you covered everywhere.
Always appreciate it, man. Always enjoy it. We have a lot of fun. Jason Fitz, Spain and Fitz tonight from 7 to 9. Right here on 97.3 ESPN. All right,
You're
Jay
the best,
Fitz.
my friend.
There he goes. Jason Fitz.